Have you ever looked at a dog quietly lying on the couch and wondered what's going on inside its mind? Most people would probably joke that it's thinking about food, treats, or chasing squirrels. But what if there's something much deeper happening? What if, in some way, that dog realizes it exists? Or here's an even bigger question. What if it doesn't? What if humans are the only living beings that truly know they're alive? Back in 1970, psychologist Gordon Gallup Jr. introduced what became the most famous test for animal self-awareness: the mirror test. The idea was surprisingly simple. While an animal was asleep under anesthesia, researchers placed a small mark on a part of its body that it couldn't normally see, like its forehead or ear. Then, after it woke up, they placed it in front of a mirror to see how it reacted. Most animals treated the reflection as if it were another animal. They barked, growled, or acted defensively before eventually losing interest and walking away, never realizing they were looking at themselves. But a small group behaved very differently. They noticed the mark in the mirror, then reached toward the same spot on their own body. That reaction suggested they understood the reflection was their own image. Chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, and sometimes gorillas have passed this test. So have dolphins, orcas, elephants, and even the Eurasian magpie, a bird with a brain no bigger than your thumb. Surprisingly, dogs, cats, and most other mammals fail the test. Even human babies don't recognize themselves in a mirror until they're around 2 years old. But many scientists believe the mirror test doesn't tell the whole story. Dogs, for example, rely far more on their sense of smell than their eyesight. Judging a dog's self-awareness with a mirror may be as unfair as asking a human to recognize themselves only by listening to their heartbeat. Maybe the problem isn't the dog, it's the test. In 2017, researcher Alexandra Horowitz explored this idea by creating a smell-based version of the experiment. Instead of using a mirror, she presented dogs with 3 scents: their own urine, a modified version of their own urine, and the urine of another dog. The results were fascinating. Dogs spent much more time investigating the altered version of their own scent, suggesting they noticed that something about themselves had changed. Even if dogs can recognize themselves through smell, that still leaves a much bigger question. Recognizing yourself isn't the same as understanding that you exist. Philosophers have debated this difference for hundreds of years. There's a gap between simply having a mind and realizing that you have one. Between experiencing the world and being aware that you're experiencing it, this ability has a name: metacognition. It means thinking about your own thoughts, being aware of your own awareness. In fact, you're doing it right now. You're not just reading these words. You know that you're reading them. You can step back and observe your own mind as it works. So the real question is, can animals do the same thing? The surprising answer is yes, but it's far more complicated than scientists once believed. In 2007, researchers at the University of Georgia tested rhesus monkeys with a series of memory challenges. After each one, the monkeys had a choice. They could attempt a difficult question for a larger reward, or play it safe with an easier question that offered less. Over time, a clear pattern appeared. When the monkeys felt unsure, they usually picked the easier option. When they seemed confident, they chose the harder challenge. They weren't simply answering questions. They were judging how well they knew the answer before making a decision. That's a powerful sign of metacognition. And monkeys aren't the only animals showing this ability. Studies have found that rats often avoid tests when they lack enough information, choosing a smaller but guaranteed reward instead of taking a risky guess. Pigeons can signal when they don't remember something. Dolphins have even been observed pausing before responding, showing hesitation that closely resembles human uncertainty. These animals aren't just reacting automatically. They appear to keep track of what they know and what they don't know. But despite all these discoveries, one mystery remains unsolved. Every experiment we've discussed measures behavior. Scientists can observe what animals do, but they still can't directly experience what animals feel. This leads to one of philosophy's deepest ideas: qualia. It's the personal, private experience of consciousness, the unique sensation of seeing the color red, the sting of a paper cut, or simply what it feels like to be you at this very moment. So here's the question no experiment has answered yet. What does it actually feel like to be a dog? Does a dog have a rich inner world filled with personal experiences? Or is it simply processing information, reacting to its surroundings like a highly advanced biological machine, without any conscious awareness behind it? One philosopher captured this mystery with a question that has fascinated people for decades. In 1974, Thomas Nagel published a paper titled, "What is it like to be a bat?" His point was both simple and powerful. Bats don't experience the world the way we do. Instead of relying mainly on sight, they use echolocation, creating a mental picture from bouncing sound waves. Their reality is built from echoes, something humans can study but never truly experience. No matter how much we learn about a bat's brain or behavior, we'll never know what it actually feels like to be one. That inner experience is locked away from us. And if we can't enter the mind of a bat, how can we ever be completely certain what life feels like for any other animal? Many scientists now believe we've been underestimating animals for a long time. In 2012, a group of leading neuroscientists met at Cambridge University and signed what became known as the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. Their conclusion was remarkable. The brain systems responsible for consciousness in humans are not exclusive to us. Birds, mammals, and possibly many other animals share similar neural structures capable of supporting conscious experiences. Put simply, the basic biological machinery linked to consciousness isn't unique to humans. If our brains can produce awareness, theirs may be doing something very similar. The famous primatologist Frans de Waal took this idea even further. After spending decades studying chimpanzees, he argued that perhaps we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking whether animals have inner experiences, maybe we should be asking why we ever assumed they didn't. Evolution rarely creates something entirely new in a single step. Features like eyes, lungs, and legs developed gradually over millions of years. If consciousness also evolved over time, then it probably exists on a continuum rather than appearing only in humans. Instead of standing completely apart, we may simply occupy one point along the same evolutionary path as other animals. Then there's one observation that's incredibly difficult to dismiss. Grief. In 2018, an orca named Tahlequah gave birth to a calf that survived only a short time. After its death, she refused to leave the body behind. For 17 days, she carried her calf through the ocean, traveling more than 1,000 miles. Whenever she became exhausted, other members of her pod helped support the calf, almost as if they understood what she was going through. Researchers described it as one of the longest documented displays of grief ever recorded in a non-human animal. The behavior offered no obvious survival benefit. It didn't help her find food, avoid danger, or improve her chances of reproducing. So why did she do it? One possibility is deeply moving. Perhaps she understood that her baby was gone, yet emotionally couldn't let go. If that's true, it suggests an awareness of loss that feels remarkably familiar to our own. And if animals can recognize loss in that way, then perhaps their inner lives are far richer than we've ever imagined. So after all of this evidence, we're left with one final question. What truly separates human consciousness from the minds of other animals, if anything at all? So where does all of this leave us? Science has shown that some animals can recognize themselves. Many can judge what they know and what they don't know. And there's growing evidence that they experience emotions in ways that may be much closer to ours than we once believed. But the biggest mystery still remains. Does the dog quietly resting on your couch truly understand that it's alive? For now, no one can answer that with complete certainty. What we do know is that every new discovery brings animals a little closer to us. As research continues, abilities once thought to belong only to humans keep appearing across the animal kingdom. Tool use, communication, culture, mourning, self-recognition. One by one, the boundaries we created are becoming harder to defend. The line separating humans from other animals hasn't become stronger over time. It has gradually faded, and that leads to a difficult thought. If animals really do have rich inner experiences, if they can feel emotions, recognize themselves, form deep relationships, and suffer loss, then our relationship with them isn't just a scientific issue. It's also a moral one. Perhaps we've misunderstood them for thousands of years, simply because they could never explain their experiences in words we understood. One remarkable story captures this idea. In 1966, a chimpanzee named Washoe became the first non-human animal to learn American Sign Language. Over the years, she mastered more than 350 signs and even passed some of them on to her adopted son. After one researcher had been away for several months, she finally returned to see Washoe again. As soon as Washoe recognized her, she signed a single word: cry. Then she pointed toward the researcher's eyes and repeated the sign: cry. It seemed as though Washoe expected the researcher to share the same emotional moment she was feeling. She wasn't simply communicating. She appeared to understand another individual's emotions and expected them to understand hers in return. Whether Washoe fully understood the nature of her own existence may remain unknown, but she clearly recognized something deeply meaningful about another mind. And perhaps that's where the story of consciousness truly begins. Not with asking whether animals think exactly like us, but with realizing they may have inner worlds of their own,